We all happened to really like the people we were playing, not only because of what they did, but what kind of people they were.
In a way, it was nice because it kind of removed the umbrella of reality.
Everything I have in life I owe to this particular character.
I think trying to get close without it being a detriment, because you can't tell the whole truth.
It's not about them, it's about the work.
And hopefully it was more like a harmony.
Sylvester, I'll start with a question for you.
Oh, call me Sly. Get rid of those 3 syllables right away. Just keep it down to 1.
Sly.
Yeah.
On your new film, Creed, you take one of your most iconic characters, Rocky Balboa, and you handed it over to a new writer and director. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was desperate. Just an act of desperation, that's all. I needed something to do this winter. No, the truth is, I never thought we'd finish the last one because I wasn't happy with the 5th one. And everything I have in life I owe to this particular character. And 7 years later, a 27-year-old kid from Oakland goes, I got this great idea. Let's start over again. But this time, let's do it with character Creed. And I thought, this is the worst idea I ever heard. Because I go through some serious changes in there that I didn't feel like going through. And everyone's going, hey, what are you, a coward? And I go, I'm yellow, yeah.
It's actually a great idea. The idea, no, it is. It's a really good idea. When I read it, I thought, oh, that's a good idea. Get the kid. Yeah, absolutely. Apollo Creed's kid, and then you train him.
You want to handle me because I have no taste. None.
Hearing Sly talk about the collaboration on that film makes me think of Spotlight, which is really an ensemble film. Case in point, we have 2 of you here. I mean, Michael, can you talk at all about establishing a rapport as an ensemble?
Well, it was easy, actually, because we all happened to really like the people we were playing, not only because of what they did, but what kind of people they were. And you kind of become them in a really kind of weird kind of way. It all fit quite easily for me, anyway, I think.
Mark, was it similar for you?
Yeah, it fell in pretty quickly. You know, we had such a good starting place. We had this great script. And then we had the people, and we had Tom, who was basically telling us from the very beginning, it's not about them, it's about the work. And so even the way we were talking, actors will take a moment and we'll, massage a couple words here and there.
No.
Not us, but other actors. And so he was like, no, man, don't do that. These people get through information quickly, and it's all about getting information. And so we started working that way in rehearsals early on, and that's pretty much when it all sort of started to gel.
Is playing a real person a gift or a hindrance? I mean, Joel, you have the same issue. You're playing a man in black mask who you can find out facts about him. Yeah. At what point is that helpful, and at what point do you have to sort of step away?
I think at the end of the day, there's definite pros and cons to it, and at some point I think you have to disconnect if the obsession with playing a real person gets in the way of the movie at large, because you can't tell the whole truth. So it's about, I think, trying to get close without it being a detriment to the point of view of the story that you're trying to tell.
And now, Paul, you have an unusual situation in the film Love and Mercy in that you're playing famed Beach Boy Brian Wilson, but then there's this whole other half of the movie in a different time period. John Cusack is playing the part. And so how did you kind of deal with knowing there was going to be this whole other half of the story?
We met when I was finishing and he was starting, and our director, Bill Pohlad, thought that we should not confer, and that hopefully there was something to come from the juxtaposition of maybe a young guy full of creative joy in the studio and the onset of mental illness, and then you see, somebody who's almost shell-shocked in the sort of space in between, and the mystery of how does that person end up like that. I also think Brian is such a complicated guy, it was interesting to have two people, and hopefully it was more like a harmony.
And Seth, Steve Jobs is structured much that same way, and that it chooses 3 very specific moments. And how did you feel about that, kind of like the way that the film was structured in trying to tell that story of those characters?
It was interesting. I think because the structure of the movie was so separate from real life, and because he was focusing on these 3 incidences and was unapologetically cramming many more interactions and experiences into these like 40-minute chunks, then in a way it was nice because it kind of like removed the umbrella of reality from the whole thing in a way.
And I think of your work as being a lot improv-based on your own film. Certainly you improvise a lot, but when you're working with an Aaron Sorkin script, I assume you're...
Not as much.
Not as much. What was that transition like for you?
It was really nice, honestly. It's really hard improvising, and it's really stressful, and it's humiliating at times, and you're taking really big swings. I think comedy's more of like a discovery process as you shoot in a lot of ways, and you're trying to constantly discover new things rather than hone in on something. And this felt much more like we were trying to hone in on something.
Did you rehearse a lot?
A lot.
Yeah.
We shot, so the movie's in 3 acts. We rehearsed for 2 weeks before each act. So we would rehearse for 2 weeks and shoot for 2 weeks, and then rehearse for 2 weeks and then shoot for 2 weeks. And so it was doing like 3 little plays almost, which I'd never done.
Sly, do you like rehearsing?
Yeah, I do. It seems like the longer I stay in the business, the less time there is to rehearse. I remember with John Avildsen and Rocky, or even in Lords of Flatbush, we'd actually go to the location. You're going to do a thing in front of Nathan's, you go down to the boardwalk, you go to Flatbush, and you actually do it on the street. And then it becomes like a deja vu when you actually do it. There's a sense of, you know, I've been here, I kind of got the feel of it. I don't know, lately, do you guys have enough time to rehearse? Do you insist on it?
We rehearse somewhat for the little time we have where we discuss the scene and people.
That's what I like too, is having a conversation that gets you on the right page. There's nothing worse than arriving on set and, you know, part of the first part of the day goes towards everybody bumping into each other, working out what they're going to do.
How much time does it take you guys to get into the flow? Like, for example, you go on the set, it's like your biggest scene. You know, I just came here, I'm literally, you just got into, you don't feel good in your clothes. Can we start off with walking across the street for a couple of days and get into a cab? And I mean, isn't it amazing how many directors start off with like your serious and your emotional scenes?
Judd Apatow used to do that because he would say it's easiest to reshoot it. That's what he would always say. He's like, let's get it out of the way, and then we can watch it, and then we can do it again at the end of the movie. I don't agree with that, and I don't do that as a director, but that's what I would, but like almost every movie we made when we first started making movies, like the big fight that was like at the end of the second act was the first day of filming. And
I gotta
was like,
say,
why
there's
are
a
we
couple times I've done it, and I actually liked it.
Me too. Yeah.
And I don't know why.
You like hitting it,
I don't necessarily always.
way.
It's not that you kind of go, I'm jumping in.
I think it asks you to take the leap, and you have to show up, and everybody, the focus from crew, from you know, you kind of just have to like, you just have to jump.
I like shooting chronologically. Sometimes you get to do that with the director, man, and you really like hit the.
We did that on the Steve Jobs movie. We shot it.
Did you like that?
We shot 100% chronologically.
Seth, you mentioned something about doing things differently than how you'd seen Judd Apatow do them. And do you feel like as you've yourself started directing, has it changed your acting? Like, are there things you'll do on set now that you sort of have that knowledge as a director?
I mean, I'd say I was always a pretty open actor, but if anything, I think it's probably made me more open to like, I don't feel like I need to understand what the director is doing. I think I asked a lot of questions when I was younger and maybe more self-conscious about it, and now I've faced those pains of just needing a technical thing to happen, and if a director's like, can you just turn around? I'm just like, yes, I'll figure it out. You don't need to emotionally motivate it. If I get it, you have a shot in mind, and I'll try to make it happen.
I know, Joel, you directed your first film this year as well, The Gift. And do you feel like you learned anything there that you've kind of brought back to your acting?
Oh, yeah, I learned heaps. I realized just how great actors are at solving problems. Smart actors, and particularly a couple of actors together who are smart, you know, and I realized that before I threw open my homework to everybody, that it was important for me to listen to what was offered up first.
Yeah, I agree that I think that and it's almost like a joke, but it's so helpful, is like actors do often view the movie kind of through the lens of their character, you know? And that is something that is so helpful as a director, because you're so busy looking at the big picture that the fact that there's like people are really only approaching it from another side of things, from my experience, like
Yeah, and I think
so
actors
much.
become better keepers of their character than the writer or the director. At some point during the shoot, you kind of, the responsibility becomes the actors, and they should know them better.
Sly, is there a sense at which once you've been directing and writing that it's a relief to just get to focus on your performance in a movie? You don't have those other things in the back of your
Paid vacation. It really is. When you have to act and be in a film, there's no question you're watching the other performance. As you know, you can't totally be there. You have to be monitoring. You're going, and then so finally, when you do get to focus on it, you appreciate the luxury of just locking in, working with superior talent surrounding you, which I think is the most important thing. When you work with another excellent actor, your game just changes. And then when you work with a poor actor, you just want to take him out and punch him in the mouth.
Just kind of embarrassed. I never want to admit that this is what I really wanted to do.
And I was pretty sure there was not like a room full of people in Hollywood thinking we need a stoned Canadian Jewish dude.
Seth, you early on started writing stuff for yourself.
Uh-huh.
Why did you decide to do that?
Because no one else was going to. It was, I mean, I was pretty sure there was not like a room full of people in Hollywood thinking we need like a stoned Canadian Jewish dude to star in our movies, you know? And so I thought I should create that room full of people. And so I started writing Superbad, which was the first movie that we made that we wrote when we were in high school. Like we started writing when we were 14. And I met my writing partner, who I still work with and direct with now, in bar mitzvah class when I was 12. And we started writing together in high school because we both thought like this can be a career path.
Paul, that makes me think of your career start, which was very different, but very dramatic. I mean, when you were 12, you were on Broadway with George C. Scott in Inherit the Wind. Did you realize at that moment sort of what was going on? Did you appreciate it fully?
No, and I wish, well, I think I did. I mean, but I was a very, you know, to me at that point, I actually don't know that I was super ambitious about, like, I'm gonna be an actor. And I'm pretty sure I was, like, more interested in playing basketball even than I was, like, going to the theater at night. But it was, you know, just a part of my life. And then I still wasn't sure, actually. I went to college and tried to get away from acting for a minute just to make sure, because I started so young, that it was something that I needed. And it turned out it was, and so then I kept at it.
Mark, you acted for a number of years kind of before you really found success. You were, I mean, kind of famously, you were a bartender for a number of years here in Los Angeles. I mean, was there something that sort of kept you going through that time?
What does famously mean? Like a Chippendale? What was impressive about your
You know, that saying, burn your bridges as you go over them so you can't turn back. Somehow they got burnt without me burning them. They just started to disappear. And as I got further and further into committing my life to acting, there was nowhere that would take me behind me anymore. And I was, you know, 28 years old, working in a bar, and I came out here when I was 18, and it wasn't happening. And so I started to really think, well, my brother sat me down and said, okay, buddy, it's time to get serious about your life. My younger brother. After having to get my car out of impound for the 4th time. And that hurt. And
but was there a moment where you felt like you turned a corner, like you could feel that like things were starting to happen for you?
last year. About a year ago, I think. I keep waiting for like them to grab me and the hook to drag me off the set. Yeah, man. So I went to New York, and I realized I'm a swan. You know, the whole time I was in LA, I thought, I was like, why don't I fit in here? You know, I'm the ugly duckling, you know? And then I realized I went to New York. I was like, I'm actually a New Yorker. I just never knew it. and I did one play there, and it was just a big off-Broadway smash hit. I mean, I'd never had an experience like that. It was so
I remember that.
well
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was a great inspiration to me at that time, you know, being in Australia, having an interest in being an actor, and all of a sudden out of nowhere comes this guy.
Yeah, but sometimes things find you. You know, sometimes things you know, planes going this way. You're the, you know, and all of a sudden your time, your age, your look, what you know, and what you're not afraid of anymore, or what you are afraid of, and all of a sudden the thing comes along, you go boom, and you go, you know, and that's just.
That was it.
That's just like a lucky thing. That part's just. Like for me, it was always just kind of embarrassed. I never wanted to admit that this is what I really wanted to do. You know, I thought, well, I'll do that, but I'm not really like those guys. I'm not really those people. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do this thing because something tells me I need to do it.
But do you really have a choice? You know what I mean?
Well, you know.
I mean, the way our minds are set up, we know we're in a business that has about 97% guaranteed unemployment.
Right.
Yet every one of you, there's not a doubt in your mind. At least you know.
Yeah.
I got it. It's
Yeah.
just, am I ever going to be able to apply it?
Yeah.
That's the frustration. There's so many good actors in the world
man.
that we're never going to see. I think Dustin Hoffman brought it up. Maybe the best actors and directors in the world have quit because they can't take the rejection process. They're too sensitive, and they get slapped around and go back and live their normal lives. But there's something in all of us here that just didn't accept that.
Yeah, no, I thought my claim to fame was going to be the margarita.
The risk of like seeming self-important, like to me, scares me.
It gives us another kind of depth and control over our own work.
I don't know where he starts and I stop till you. Yeah.
One tool that actors have now to communicate with people that they didn't in previous generations is social media, and some people are comfortable with it, some people aren't. Joel, I noticed you're on Twitter. Do you use it to...
Yeah, but I've tweeted about 40 times in 4 years, so I think I know people that would tweet that in a day.
Right.
You know, I sit there quite often with my thumbs sort of like hovering, and what's going on while they hover is me deciding that what I thought was going to be interesting for me to write, no one would be interested in. And I know that that's not necessarily true, and that it's sort of...
it is true.
I had that struggle... Yeah. yeah, absolutely, you're right.
Well, Paul, I believe you're very much not on social media. Is that even a professional concern for you at all?
No, I mean, one, I just don't think I need more reasons to be on my phone. And I think maybe at first, and this is actually not true when I think about other people, but at first I would worry. I think our business, you know, from the outside, right, you get dressed up, you go to a premiere, you get kind of treated, like, the risk of like seeming self-important, like to me, scares me. But you know what? When other people do, like Guillermo del Toro, like tweets every day, like one film and one book he's going to recommend. Like I actually kind of want to know what he's recommending. So I actually don't think it's like self-important in any way that he's doing that.
Well, Seth, it was interesting to hear you say that you wouldn't mind if one of your scripts appeared on the internet before you shot the movie. You'd say, you know, whatever, people will still come see it.
I mean, I'm not, and I don't make like big science fiction movies.
Right.
So my movies aren't as built on secrecy. I also think if you're the type of person who's going to take the time to read a script that's released online, you're probably going to pay to go see the movie when it comes out, just because like you're probably like a real movie fan. And because of that, I believe in a certain transparency, I guess. I think that I like when people have access to our process and the bad takes we do that takes, you know, that lead to the good takes, and the early drafts of our script that lead to the good drafts, and so they can compare and learn if they're interested in it.
But now, Mark, you use social media for engagement on social issues, and do you like that sort of direct connection with an audience and people in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I got into Twitter because I was the Iranian Revolution happened in 2008, and I could actually watch it happening in real time. So all of a sudden I saw, man, this has a democratizing power, and it's a way for people to actually talk to each other without the centralized model. And what I came to realize is how you control people is by controlling the information they get. And if you can let people talk directly to each other, that's very, very powerful. But as an actor, it gives us a direct line to the people who are interested in our work. That is different than having to do that through a publicist or a media outlet. It gives us another kind of depth and control over our own work. And for that reason, I think it's powerful. I think it's good.
It's like indispensable now. We went to a meeting on Creed, and in the room was 60 people, of which 40 of them were relegated to media. Just different aspects of media. And I remember when we started Rocky, I mean, we used to, I think it was an arrow with a message on it, and you shoot that, and hopefully someone can read it. You know, it's a bird, a dog with a cask around his neck, you know, some brandy in it. So, you know, that it literally, it's you know,
It's hard to wrap your head around. I find
it is. It literally is. But it's extraordinary, and there's so, you know what it is? I think there's so much media coming in now. You have to just smash your way through it, because otherwise you're done. You know what I mean? Whereas before, you open up a movie in 40 theaters. Seriously, back in the 70s, a wide opening was 100 theaters, 75 for real. Now you get that like in your own house. You got 75 screens. It's like, you know, it's ridiculous.
Sly, Creed has some fun with Rocky's lack of technical know-how. There's a joke about the cloud, for instance. Is there any parallel between you and he in that regard?
I don't know where he starts and I stop till he's no, except his morality is much greater than mine.
And gentlemen, I thank you all for being here. That's where we're going to wrap this up. We thank you for watching The Envelope.